You're listening to season 3 of That's Not How a Baby Sleeps. I'm your host, Alicia Daishon, and I'm joined by my co-host, Eleni Katsinis. We're not your average sleep consultants, no cry it out or sleep training at all for that matter.
This is Alicia, Ashley, Alicia.
Hi, Alicia. Nice to meet you.
To meet you too.
We wanted to have Ashley on because she is starting or already started a beautiful organizing business. And Ashley is a really good friend of mine too. So I love talking with her, all things motherhood and now organizing. Oh, Ashley, can you start by just telling us a little bit about yourself and what inspired you to starting this business? And what is the title of this business? Would you say you're an organizer?
I guess I'm still trying to figure that out because on top of the, professional organizing, I also am trying to help moms and busy women kind of bring systems into their everyday life, to calm the noise. I like to specialize right now into decluttering. Yeah, I think it seems to be in that realm of just trying to quiet the noise of things and systems around us.
Beautiful. Is there a moment in your own motherhood journey where you're realize that you had to do this for yourself? Okay, I'm sick of the clutter or I'm sick of the chaos. Or have you always been this type of mom, or was there a aha moment for you?
Yeah, I guess before motherhood, as a young girl, I was the friend who would come to your house and clean your room. And I just found joy in tidying other people's stuff and getting to know them through their things. And that was a sense of control in my own realm. My room was my safe place as a child, having control in things and being tidy. That was a huge aspect of calm for me. So I always like to do that for other people. And then I was also a big collector. So, of course, being in this consumer culture that we're in now, especially during the pandemic when we were bored and in my 20s, I quickly fell into that trap of the pursuit of happiness. But then once I became a mom, that was when it really spiked. I was very overstimulated during early motherhood. The stuff, it accumulated with good intentions, but then I was overwhelmed by this stuff. And I think as women too, we fall in this trap of being perfectionists, of trying to collect and be prepared. So we fall into, pregnancy, being told of all these different things we need for our registries. And then all these just in case items. And then you just have so many stuff. You're in those really stressful early days with a newborn and you're looking around you and all of your stuff is wait, I don't need that. I don't need a bassinet. I don't need a crib. It's just a stuff collector. So I think before motherhood and now, especially in motherhood, I am realizing my own threshold of visual clutter with stuff and the mental clutter that involves.
Yeah, that's funny you say that because we always talk about when you are pregnant and your registry shouldn't be stuff. It should be help or resources or
Yes.
a food chain and all those other things because like you said, there's so much stuff. And I think everyone listening and myself and Alicia talk about this too, is there's too much stuff and it's overwhelming and it clutters my actual mind and it shuts. I know I talk about Ashley all the time. How do I fix this? I need to organize. And it's really hard for me. We'll talk more about that in a little bit, but just the decluttering and stuff. But obviously this helps you as a mom, your day-to-day basis, right? The next question I was going to ask is how do you find calm in the chaos of motherhood? Because obviously you have your systems in place and this and that, but children are unpredictable and there's still chaos. So how do you put your systems in place to help you with that?
I guess for me, calm comes from focusing on what I can control. So that is my environment and my mindset. And I quickly come in this idea of we cannot control our kids. And especially when we're in this realm of trying to give our kids autonomy and free will and just become who they want to be without dimming their light. That for me is a little crazy. So I try to lower my expectations. I focus on what I can control. So home, my rhythm, and it's not perfect. And, but I can control the stuff around me and I can control the clutter and I can control my to-do list in the way of knowing my to-do list is never ending, but how am I going to organize that in a way, like, and what system works for me might not be what works for, other moms, but finding what works for me in those systems is really grounding.
Yeah, that's nice. So what would you tell somebody that comes to you and they're just completely overwhelmed because they don't even know where to start? Probably me, because I just told you this a couple
Yeah,
weeks ago. I
yeah.
don't even
And
know,
me
like,
too.
where do you even start? I guess that's probably unique to each mom, right? So like, what would
Yeah.
be the
I
first thing
mean,
to tell them?
especially in like motherhood, we're so busy. I mean, and it never stops, right? Like you could clean your kids' toys and it's like that constant cycle. So understanding that constant cycle, keep cycling, but start tiny, like one drawer, one corner. For me, it's flat surfaces. So if I can get, those bigger appliances off my countertops in the kitchen, I can take a breather because I'm not using those on a daily or weekly basis. So I can get those out of my visual mental clutter by removing those from my visual clutter. And it also like removes the guilt and the pressure that's associated around stuff around us. So like, you don't need a big Pinterest perfect overhaul. And if you do, like you can have help. I can help you, or, have a friend help you, or have a parent come over and help you. But you just need those little tiny steps to build momentum. And I've found that too with people who I've started to help. I will leave and they will text me the next day and tell me, I just did my whole closet in the front hall. Or they build on the momentum of those small wins that, I think those small wins are everything, especially in motherhood.
Yeah, I would say so. I feel like that's a thing for me too. It's like when I see it all around me, especially if it's like in our living space, because our kids just start taking over our living space with all their stuff. Like you don't always
Yeah.
have a room or like a play space,
I do have a playroom, but
like a playroom.
Yeah, I know. And it bleeds out everywhere. I mean, there's toys everywhere. Even if you have a playroom, there's toys everywhere.
That's true. And you touched on a little bit about like our culture is like that too, right? Which is like a
Yeah.
buy, right? Like they just have to buy everything or everyone gives you everything. Like now that you're in this world of like organizing and decluttering, have you thought about like why? Like why is that the case? I guess it's just our culture, right?
Yeah, I mean, Western society too, like this is a fun topic that I'm sure both of you love. It's the push for independence. So, when you buy stuff, it's like container stuff, it's things to make kids play by themselves, like the developmentally appropriate toys. They're glorifying independence when in reality it's going against our grain that we want community, we want village, and we want to be together. So I just think, it's, consumerism. We're in this, it's so easy to get a credit card and to just consume, consume, consume. And also, that pursuit of happiness, it's very easy to get lost in that. I have many seasons of my life where that has been an easy kind of calming sense to shop. So replacing that habit with something different, or replacing a like simple shift before you buy something. I love this. I tell all of my friends and family and clients now to wait, like give yourself a 48-hour pause before buying anything, and you'll be surprised at how much you actually don't end up buying. Like I'll put it in my shopping cart, but I won't purchase it, and it'll come like 2 weeks later and I'll go into a shopping cart or Amazon and I'll be like, I obviously didn't need that because I didn't think about that again. But yeah, that's consumer culture and that pursuit of happiness. I think, we're all, I mean, I don't know about you, Alicia, but Melanie and I are 90s babies. Yep. So we're in that, 90s culture where it was like slow and simple, and we're not in that anymore. Now we're raising kids in this like fast pace. So I think we're all in the same realm of trying to like slow down our lives. And with that is like pausing.
That's really nice that you said that because it's so easy to do an Amazon like come the next day, right? You think of something you
Yeah,
need at your home and you buy it, it comes the next day, and you're like, wait, do I really need this?
I know. I
So
know.
hard to figure out like if you really need something, if you start purchasing, right? Or like the
Yeah.
dog believe in and like the decluttering, like if I really need this, like for me, I'm emotionally attached to so many items because I think of my own childhood trauma and stuff. And I know it always goes back to that, but I don't want to put that on Nora. Obviously, it's not her fault that I'm going there. So it's like I'm emotionally attached to her toys because she played with them, right? Like, and she's getting bigger, older, and I don't want to get rid of them. So it makes me so sad to think about getting rid of them. So I guess we can talk about like how do you help families like take that emotion away, or I guess just like fill it with something more positive.
Yeah, I love that you are talking about this too, because I think this is fair to say for everyone that they fall in just that emotional hold on stuff, but the stuff doesn't hold the memories, right? And like some simple things I do when I'm having an attachment to something that used to be, a past loved one, I will take a photo of it. And this simplicity of like having the photo of it hold on to the item without having to hold on to the item. And it's, also like decluttering it's a muscle. So you're going to like build up that muscle as time goes on, just like, you're going to go work out to build, muscles. It's going to build up over time. And what you don't want to start with is like the hardest part is emotionally attached items. You want to start small and then build up that over time. So, if it so back on the emotionally attached items, keepsake containers and having like the container method, which is the container creating the boundary around those items. But when it comes to kids stuff, we can quickly fall into such a trap with having so much kids stuff. So it's, I think motherhood is filled with like decision fatigue.
I'm sure everyone listening, and I don't know if Alicia is like this, but like I'm really emotionally attached to like things. Like I have a hard time letting go of, especially toys. Clothes I'm okay with. It's not, I feel like they don't take as much room as like a giant toy. Like an example is Nora's Little People Village. Like that's, I
Little People. You talked about that one before.
It's so hard for me to get rid of because that was like her first real toy she loved and played with since she's been like a year old, and she still plays with them. But I have 50 Little People items. I'm like, we don't need all this, but I can't get rid of it at the same time.
No, those Little People, like, they're so expensive to begin with. Like, my brain's like, I would hold on to that if you want to have another child. I mean, I'm done now with my two. Lane's threatened me multiple times this week. Our garage is filled with a whole bunch of baby toys. He's like, if you don't put this on Marketplace, I am taking it to the dump this week. I was like, there are wooden Love Every toys in there. You do not bring those to the dump. Those are worth money. He's like, then post it on Marketplace. And I'm like the biggest procrastinator in the entire world. Like, it's just all sitting there. And I took pictures of it all last week and then just did nothing with the pictures in my phone.
Well, you did it. I mean, you did the first step was the awareness, and then you took the photos. So you're on to the next spot, which
after 3 months, actually, I took the photos. It's more like I'm at the point now where I'm like, I just feel like I'm lazy, but then I'm also like, I have a million things going on in my brain. I'm waiting to get an ADHD medication diagnosis because I'm like,
yeah, too much. And I think too, that's kind of where I got lost track too, is the, as moms, we get really decision fatigue. Having all of these toys and on top of our regular daily items and having to choose whether or not to keep them. And then also with these possibility of more children or, for you, Lenny, like Nora still plays with this and, has played with it. There's so much attachment towards it. So what I love to have is, just a time will tell bin and, having an area. So when it comes to kids' toys too, I'm very simple. I've found with my own children that less is more. And I do a toy rotation. And I have like a time will tell bin, and I will put things in the time will tell bin. And if I end up taking it out, that's great. We know we can keep that. If I don't end up going for that item, then I know that I can let go of this item with a little less guilt because it's no longer serving the season of life.
Yeah. And that's hard. That's like a hard thing to accept and move on from, right? Like every time you like go up the next size and like put away the smaller size of your kids, like grieving that for a second, especially with not knowing if you're going to have more kids or if you know that you're done having kids. Like it's so hard to let go of those items. But I always tell people too, because like, well, what if you have more kids? I'm like, that kid's also going to have a birthday and they're also going to go to Christmas. We're going to get toys. So like, I want that child to have nice new things just like Nora did, or gently used, donated, whatever. That doesn't matter. But just like, it's always funny people say that. And I get that because it would be nice to have some things ready for the next child, because unfortunately the second or third kid usually gets more forgotten than the first one.
And whether you keep it or not, it's still something you have to manage as the mom. So like everyone has their own threshold of what they want to manage when it comes to stuff, but is that something you want to manage to then store to then, and how much, if you ended up wanting that item after letting go of it, would it actually cost to replace it? So that's also, I think it's over time, like understanding what you can physically and mentally manage when it comes to stuff. And like you, Alicia, I also loved the Love Every toys. And I made one of those bins for each like those 3 stages.
All organized by age, didn't you?
I did. Yes. And I actually have the photo of that. I'm going to be posting that soon on my page because and I really looked forward to having those toys for my second child. And when I pulled those out, he could care less.
Same.
And it was like devastating to me because I fell into the trap of my kids need these developmentally appropriate, beautiful wooden toys. And they're so nice and I spent a fortune and then selling them. So I have let go of most of the stages, but it was hard. And there was a lot of time and energy that put into taking the photos, listing them, answering a million messages on Facebook Marketplace. So now I know when I bring in toys or I'm making a wish list for my kids, I don't want to manage that much stuff again because that was a lot. So over time, I've built this awareness of my own tolerance of managing kids' toys, and I just don't want to manage that much.
That's a really good point because I feel like we have so much stuff, and as adult brains, we get overwhelmed by it because you touched on that for a second. Like, less is more. It really is because and I think I just told you this actually the other week, when I have my nieces or like my nephew come over and then they take out every single toy we own, because obviously Nora doesn't do that because she knows where everything goes and it's organized when it's just her. But when I have friends come over with their kids and I see all the toys that we own on the floor at once, I'm like, oh my gosh, why do we have this much? And this is very to me. All the kids are fighting over every toy, even though there's a million toys on the ground. And they're fighting over everything because they're overwhelmed, because their brain is overwhelmed with all the stuff on the ground, because I'm overwhelmed by looking at it all. So I know that if we all decluttered and organized our homes and only had a few really core, great toys that kids can play with, they will just be better. And obviously, play better. And I'm sure you see that with your own kids, right? Because I know you do a good job with like intentional toys that they actually enjoy.
Yeah, and I guess over time too, you have to create the awareness around your own kids, not necessarily what you want. Because I did that. I took away all the toys. I put ones that I wanted to be more intentional, and he didn't want the wooden, pretty, aesthetically pleasing blocks. He wanted the little people that were those crazy colors and a little more overstimulating with me. So then I the colorful toys out and I brought the wooden blocks in, and I'm learning my kids and learning, like you were saying, Lenny, if you're overwhelmed with all the stuff on the floor, there's no way they're not overwhelmed. And if if they're having a hard time managing this stuff, it's like kids, I don't think we give our kids enough credit as much as they can do when it comes to like helping pick up their toys. But when there's too much, they don't, if we're overwhelmed, they're overwhelmed. So we're going to have a lot less help from them.
Curious about, how old are your kids, Ashley?
Elliot is 3.5. He'll be 4 in January. And then I have a 1-year-old. He just turned 1 in June.
I'm curious about how getting children to help clean up their toys, because my oldest is good, but mine are 4 and 7. She gets really resentful over the fact that the 4-year-old doesn't help at all and just makes more of a mess, and then the 4-year-old just refuses to help at all.
Yeah. I also get mad when no one helps me pick up. So I feel that. But I really, the book I just picked up for the second time is Hunt, Gather, Parent. And I am loving that. Just the idea of like having kids be involved in the system of a family. And it's not easy but simplifies it enough that it's just like an easy step to involve them, but without pressure. And that's what's hard for me because I'm like, what do you mean? Like, I want to be like, come on, let's pick up, pick up, pick up. Like, if you're not going to pick up, then we're not going to play. So,
I'll take them all.
yes, exactly. And I get so triggered because, I grew up in a house where if I didn't pick up my broom, everything got thrown away. So that level of harshness is almost just brought this like need to control everything. And when my kids are playing and they just take every bin and they dump it, dump it, dump it, and then they're like, "Oh, I'm not cleaning that up." I'm like, "Okay, we're throwing it all away." I mean, I don't say that, but I want to.
I say sometimes.
And yeah, yeah, yeah.
It never
And
goes over well. I don't throw any of it out.
And I know, and you're probably at a different level too with older kids who, they're learning words, they're learning how to talk, so their level of talking might not be, kind. So then you're even more triggered because you feel this level of like unease and not safe anymore. So yeah, I will approach that when I get to that point with the ages. But I a lot of times have to like step back and ground myself and make it a game. Or as long as he helps me with one little thing and like no, not a lot of praise, which I think too as a society we're like, yay, you ate a bite of food, and that the book talks about how that level of praise kind of it doesn't motivate them to help. So just kind of nonchalantly being like, you made a mess with your toys, you picked them up. That's what we do to take care of our house. And I will too. I don't know if this is appropriate for my age kids, but if I find that they're having a hard time managing the toys, I will then, while they're sleeping, just like shift it back a little bit and have less toys out.
Yeah, that makes sense. I was going to ask you, and I know every age kid is probably different, right? Because now that Honora is getting older, we're like having her be in the process of organizing and not really organizing, more decluttering and like donating because she is getting old enough. And like, I don't want to, I know a lot of families will just like start taking stuff and throwing things away or like donating without asking the child. I don't know if you do that. I know your kids are a little bit younger, but what do you think about, I guess, like involving your kids in those processes? Like, I'm not going to have her organize a whole closet with me for an hour straight, but
Yeah. So I personally don't think at that age, even Nora's age, I don't think until they can really understand, I would say like teens, I don't think that the kids are developmentally like aware to be able to emotionally handle that. I think that's on us. Simplicity Parenting, that book talks about how you do it while they're sleeping or they're away. And a lot of the examples that he used, the kids would come back and be just so excited that their space was new and fresh. And they would put all of the toys and totally do a big U-Haul of the room and the space. And really the kids didn't ask about any of the toys that had been taken away or that are different. And I think involving them in little aspects, a couple toys here and there, maybe around the holidays to say like during the holidays, we're going to get a lot more toys. So maybe we can make room for new toys. But if they're having like attachments and stuff, I don't know if, we could mentally, I don't know that research, and that'd be very interesting research.
It's okay with my oldest for the most part because she in her head she's like, well, we're gonna get new toys, so I'm gonna give up all of these ones. She's good with that, but I think it would depend on the temperament of the child
Yes.
too, and
Yeah.
kind of where they're at. Do you feel like Nora does okay with that, Eleni?
I think she's getting better for sure. Like if she an example would be like she just got like a new car ramp. It was like a Spidey car ramp, and she's really into Spidey. But then she already had an other car ramp. It was different. We're like, and she hasn't used that one in probably like over a year. So I'm like, oh, look, you got a new one. So let's donate this one to someone else. And we always talk about donating to, like, a lot of kids don't have what we have. And like talking about being grateful and just like we have so much and we're only a family of 3. So it'd be nice to give these things to other people who don't have as much. So that's where we're falling into, especially around the holiday season of like thankfulness and being grateful and all those things. So you're right though about like they're not really emotionally obviously mature enough to understand that, and we don't want to make them upset. Like every time we're like, hey, it's time for doing a donation, she's like, no, not my favorite kitty toy. I'm like, I would never make you get rid of something that you love right now, but this giant elephant stuffed animal you haven't touched in 2 years, maybe we could donate this one.
Yeah.
So we are doing little steps, not overwhelming her. Like, like Dave just went through all her stuffed animals with her, and she got rid of, like, I don't want to say get rid of, but we donated like 15 of them. And I swear she has
With her.
80 to like 100. So it's cool that she kind of is understanding it. And I'm like, okay, we're going to do this again, probably like soon, because we just have so much and I want space for you to grow. Right. And like,
yes,
you to understand that we will get more stuff, but also I feel like we have a lot of conversations with our family members about the stuff too. Like, we don't need so many things for Christmas, or we don't need so many things for birthdays. And I think they're starting to understand it, hopefully. But I guess it's really hard for like grandparents.
I think it depends on who, like, my mom's really good about that too. Like, she doesn't buy anything for my kids unless I okay it, which is lovely.
Oh, it's nice.
My mother-in-law is a different story. We get lots of like random things where I'm like, oh, another stuffed animal. Awesome.
Yeah. And that falls into like gift giving, like the, your ways you give love too. So if you have an adult who loves your child, and the way that they show love is gifting them things every time, that's going to quickly accumulate.
Yeah, that's true. Well, you have a very specific, well, I know you just said this about your kids, like you want your kids to play with something, but they might not want that exactly. So do you have conversations with family members or friends about like gift lists, or like what you want for your child? Or are you okay with like letting them pick out something? You know what I mean? Like, how do you feel about that?
I'm very intentional when it comes to wish lists during the holidays and birthdays. I do want open-ended toys where they have room to be more creative and, explore. So I'm very picky, as you say. And when people don't follow that, and just like when we receive gifts too, gift giving is usually about the giver, not the giftee, usually. And you can be thankful for an item, but realize that it's not going to serve you in this season of life. Or for kids, like this is for a 1-year-old, my kid's 3, and that's a nice place where that like time will tell bin comes along, and you could stick it in there. So you don't have to like make the decision of, my kid doesn't need this item that he just got gifted, or I don't need this item that will take space in my home that I already have one of. You can stick it in like a time will tell capsule. And if you think of that item again, you can go and grab that. Or if you come to that bin in, the future, you can say, I don't have space for this in my home or this season of life, or my child, this really isn't going to suit their needs, what they need right now.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
I have Amazon wish lists for both of my kids, and what goes on there is what I want.
Yes.
Stuff.
Yeah.
My family's great about it. Like, they all have access to it. Like, I don't need, things will just show up like for birthdays or like Christmas, because we don't live in the same place. So a lot of the time they'll just order stuff and send it to the house. But it's things that I'm like good with. So my side of the family follows.
Yeah. Now, what do you do with those items that you receive, and maybe, or on Christmas morning, there's so many Christmas presents, and you're like, that one's,
They're still in my house, Ashley.
Yeah. Okay.
It's chaos here.
Yeah. So and Elliot's young too, so I'm curious to see what will happen in the future. But last year, Elliot's birthday is in January. So Christmas happens, then January happens, and it's his birthday. So I feel like very quickly we could accumulate a lot of stuff. So first birthday, second birthday, I was very overwhelmed. And I remember those big, lovely days of the holidays as being overwhelmed. So I knew last year, having a small baby, I did not want to feel that way. So right when we received all of the items, I put them in like big bins in my garage. And I don't know where I heard a mom say, but they said that they brought one out at a time, or they didn't bring them out at all. And they brought out a couple that they wanted their kid to really be engaged with. And they only brought out the others if their kid asked about that. So a lot of the excitement, kind of like when we order from Amazon, is the anticipation and then the unwrapping, and then it kind of dissipates. So, Christmas morning and birthdays, it's so fun to open those gifts, but maybe 3 days later, they won't even recollect what they got.
Yeah.
And I had bins that and I'm sorry to any friends or family who are listening to this, but if it wasn't on my list, unfortunately, it just doesn't serve our season of life and what I'm really trying to intentionally bring to our home.
Yeah.
There's so many toys too, and my girls are both born in October, so it's October 1st, October 27th, and then Christmas. So I did a clean out, and yes, all the stuff is still sitting in my garage that I need to sell for the birthdays, like at the beginning of October. But they get so many gifts nowadays just for birthdays, because I'm not going to like send out an Amazon wish list to all
I
of their
know the
friends.
friends.
Because I'm like, that's weird. My family, I don't care, but for their friends, there's so many gifts on the market now that are like these kind of like surprise sort of toys, like 5 surprises with like these like, and they're so excited to open them, and then they're just useless toys a few days later. Like there's, I can't remember what they're called, but they come in these like eggs.
Yeah.
And it's a plushie, it's a stuffed animal, but they're so excited to see which one they get, and then it just gets like,
Oh my gosh.
I'm just complaining because like
And
those are the type of
no,
toys. And I'm like,
but
awesome,
it's setting
cool.
setting our kids up for that consumer culture of like the pursuit of happiness. And it's irking because I mean, they're over it. And what are we teaching our kids? That that item is now no longer valuable. And I think that's too is it's the art of maintaining our items and taking care of them over time, maybe repairing instead of replacing. And those surprise toys, that's doing the opposite. It's teaching our kids that everything's disposable and it's so quickly, obtainable. And I think
I had those conversations with my 7-year-old, and she's like, she still likes that, like, oh, what is it going to be? And I'm like, but think about how you feel afterwards. Like, do you care about that toy after? She's like, I don't. It's just that, like, that those toys give you,
well,
and then they're just, oh,
yeah.
and those are like $30. I'm like, what? These poor parents are spending $30 on these things that I don't want, and my kid's gonna like for 2 seconds and then just be over it. Yeah.
Well, that's fun. That's funny because don't we do the same thing when we scroll and we doom scroll and we want those little bits of dopamine hit? And at the end of the day, it's really not doing anything productive for our brains, but it feels good. So yeah, we're in a weird, fast paced, consume it, throw it away. Yeah, and now we have to raise kids in this.
Yeah, we always talk about like letting your kids be bored. Like it's so important to just let them be, like, and let them like make an open-ended toy, or even just obviously being outside is great if you can be outside as much as you possibly can, because you never, I mean, our kids in our society, especially, like there's so much technology, or there's so much stuff, or there's so many toys, like there's too much, so they're getting bored so easily because they have to constantly keep their minds going, or like always have that dopamine like hit, like you're saying, because it's always being thrown at them. Like I always remember someone said something about, like, I saw a baby just like sitting at a restaurant. They're like, oh my gosh, that baby doesn't have a toy in their hand. Like, aren't they so bored? I'm like, they're a baby. Like, who cares? Like, they don't always need something in front of them, just like us as adults. Like, when you go out in public, when you're like just sitting in like the doctor's office or anywhere, is every single person on their phone? Yeah. Like nobody just sits there and just like sits, because it's like really awkward and like uncomfortable and be bored.
Yeah.
But I try really hard to just put my phone away, just like sit and like look around because I'm sick of like being in like consumer culture, or just like thinking I have to constantly be entertained. I think this all just wraps into all that, you know, organizing and decluttering and everything, because that's just how it is, unfortunately.
Because at the end of the day, we're trying to like slow down and create space and connect. And how are we connecting when, it's weird because, the social media and all of that, it makes us feel so connected and we can reconnect like we're doing right now. But at the same time, we live in this comparison, disconnected world. People sit in a waiting room and no one talks to each other because, that's not a thing. No. And I'm one of those. I am not going to say hello. But we just sit engaged in our phone and, yeah. That's also me, Eleni.
I know. But okay. You talk a lot about like your routines and like your systems in place, like your day to day, right? Like even just like a morning system or an afternoon or evening system. Like any of your systems that you use day to day, like what's an example of it, and like how does it help, I guess, make your day flow, even though your day could get chaotic with children, but I guess how does it help keep you like calm?
Yeah, that's a big part of my control and trying to create ease in my day, especially when life is lifing or, kids are super unpredictable and I like predictability. I like rhythms. I like routine. So having, a lot of microsystems. So a lot of my systems aren't going to be huge ones because if they fall apart, then everything falls apart and it just feels like a cycle to me. So I need small wins. So like my microsystems, laundry zones, meal staples. I do a lot of meal planning every week. Every Sunday I have, a chore chart. Every day is something different. And they're small in the sense that they can adapt and grow as my season needs. So currently I'm in a life is lifing season and I'm going to let balls drop, but I'm not going to let, those glass ones drop. I'm going to let the rubber ones that can bounce up and come back with ease. So also like simplifying my visual spaces and having like clear, those flat surfaces that tend to collect everything. I really like to have a catch-all basket, a catch-all bin that is a big one for me, and I've been sharing it on my page, and I've been having a lot of other mothers find success with it, and busy women too. It's baskets in each room that just collect the clutter of the day. So if you see something on the floor real quick and you don't have that 2 minutes to take care of it, you get into like a habit of just like throwing it in the bin or having like a 5 minute pickup, but maybe you don't have those 5 minutes. You can quickly just throw a bunch of stuff in the catch-all bin or catch-all bin that's, going room to room. I find that brings, a lot of ease. And then the 5 minute pickup before night, putting everything back in its home and saying goodnight to your home before you go to bed. Your future self thanks you in the morning. So
I have catch-all bins in each of my room, and they're all full. They've been full for weeks.
yeah, and mine
But I
are
love the idea when I'm like, it's brilliant.
yeah,
It really
it
is. But
is.
I have to actually do something with the bins.
Yeah, and mine gets super full, and that's just like my cue. Okay, I need to come back to this, or maybe you need another one. So,
No, that will just make it worse.
but maybe this is your season of life, or maybe you just need another catch-all bin, or you like look in that catch-all bin and you can then create awareness of like when you do organize it and figure out what zones are being created, and you're like, well, then maybe I need a home for this if it just keeps landing here.
That's funny. When you were saying that, it made me think of, so sometimes I get in like the really great cleaning, organizing mode, and I'm like, yes, I'm gonna do all this, and like I organize it, it looks great, but then like a week later, it all gets messy again. Oh,
Yeah,
do you have that in your home? Like, do you get messy like that, and you have to reorganize, declutter? I feel like
hundred percent.
I picture your house perfect all the time. I know it's probably not. I just picture. I just
But
picture.
you know what? That's so funny. And everyone has their own different okay, threshold. I always talk about this. Everyone's gonna have their own threshold with like amount of stuff and what is their goal. My goal with the stuff is I want to be able to pick up every room in my house under 5 minutes. So if I find myself it's like creeping up where it's taking longer than that was 5 minutes at night, I'm like, I need to rework a system. I often reassess the systems. And even bringing that in like other families' homes, the awareness that nothing's perfect, nothing's, the only constant is change. So we have to like constantly be evolving, especially as our kids get in different ages, as we're in different seasons of life. And like reassessing isn't failure, it's just like maintenance. So maintaining the home and managing the home, it's about noticing like what's not flowing anymore and what's not working anymore, and not blaming yourself or your home or your kids or your current systems, but just like meeting with flexibility and grace. And I think that's the epitome of motherhood, is learning that.
Yeah, that's what that is.
That's why I keep telling myself that, one day it won't be like this.
Yes, I know. And
Yeah.
who knows? But then, and that's also like a pursuit of another season that might be calmer when we're in it now. Like, let's just learn to be calm now, because you may say that and then your children might have 6 kids and then they're coming over 3 times a week and they're destroying your home. So what systems are in place to manage that load? So yeah, the flexibility and handling things with ease and grace. I didn't learn this. I didn't learn this as a kid. I am now learning this as an adult and realizing who I want to be as a mom and what I need to do in order to like manage my mental load. And that's visual clutter. Clutter is constant mental stressors.
Yeah.
My husband's mom is like, there will not be a single dish in the sink at all before she goes to bed. Like she is her house is immaculate. My mom's house, like we all walk into it and we're like, oh my gosh, like it's always had clutter. She doesn't care. There's just clutter everywhere. And my dad is a complete and utter pack rat. Like he lives in our basement suite and I've just gone through stuff and like just thrown it out. Like they're both so much worse than I am, but I do feel like I get a lot of that from them. I don't want to be like them, but I find my house is very similar to that. And Lane struggles with that because he's like, I can't think if the kitchen looks like this. He will not cook another meal until the kitchen's clean. And I'm like, let's just get the meal done so we can feed the children.
Yes.
Okay, it's just absolute chaos, but you know, it's fine.
Yep, it's fine.
It doesn't feel fine.
Yeah, and it's, it's unlearning all of that learned behavior, and coming into like, who do I want to be, which is not who we are inherently. I find that too in motherhood. How when I came into motherhood, I was very dead set in how I wanted to be and who I wanted to be, and all of a sudden I was overwhelmed by stuff and kids being, unpredictable and it's chaotic, and all of a sudden I'm starting to parent the way I was parented, and that's not how I wanted to parent. So I'm very big. I like to, what I can do for control is like reading books, learning. I love Eleni's, just all of your wisdom you've brought. I love your podcast too. And like being part of this community that maybe our parents didn't have when they were young parents or like early parenthood. So what can we bring to the table? So it's, unlearning and relearning is so hard as adults.
It's really hard. And all this stuff that you're saying totally ties in with motherhood, right? Because it's just chaotic and messy, and that's how motherhood could be. But of course, there's like so much magic and joy in motherhood, just like it could be in our home. And like, of course, we want our kids to remember that our home wasn't always perfect and clean and tidy, but it was like, there is systems and routines in place that made our home a better home, right? And like, even if it was like, it's okay. I think that's too, like, I think so much of us are so reactive when it comes to a mess, because probably how we were parented as children. Like if we made a mess, I'm sure our parents yelled at us, or like just because they were annoyed, right? Like there's, I feel like none of our
were stimulated like we were.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah,
and they just didn't have the patience to parent us. They didn't have the emotional maturity to parent us or tell us the right way. Like I feel it breaks my heart when Nora makes a mess and she gets nervous. Like, how am I going to react? Like, am I going to get yelled at? And it's not like I scream at her when she makes a mess, but of course, in the past, I'm like, really? Like,
sighing, things like that.
Like, oh, I just cleaned that whole room and now you spilled this, But it's like, she's a kid. She's supposed to be messy, and they can be clean. You can clean up the.
Yeah. And I do find a lot of motherhood is almost like calming your inner child. And I will like envision myself like placing a hand on myself and almost like using that as a moment of wait, I make the rules now and we can make a mess. This is fun. Oh, we can do these things now. Like all of a sudden my anxiety is coming up because we're trying to protect our kids. So we're stressed out because, oh no, we're not safe. So our fight or flight responses are coming up. So I will like take a moment and just like, it's okay, baby, like little child Ashley, we're okay here. Like, and then approach the situation. I find that helps. But yeah.
That's really sweet. We need to have you on the podcast just to talk about all that stuff.
Oh,
I feel like you've done a really good job with everything that you just said. And like you're tying it into your motherhood journey and now into this business, which is really beautiful because you're helping a lot of people like really tidy their homes so they can feel mentally more clear. Because I know that when I'm tidying or organizing, I really do feel better. Like in my office space, I had to clean this office and I had to make sure everything was neat and organized, and I could like focus better on it. When there was mess around me, I'm like, I cannot work right now because I'm so overwhelmed by the mess right next to me, and just like I need to clean it instead. But like that's not, obviously every single person's different. But I was going to say, you'd be very proud of me because I just organized stuff yesterday. I was very proud of myself. Nora has like,
I love it.
He has so many arts and crafts, like so much of that type of stuff, and just like all that stuff is piling up, and I like buy these really great carts for it, and they've worked, but they just get over like crowded and just like really messy. So I organized them, and it took me like an hour and a half to do it, but I'm like, at least I did it and now it's done. and I wanted to make space for homeschooling because that's what we're doing. I'm like, the homeschooling stuff is just living on our dining room table, and it's too, like, I'm sure a dining room table or a table is where people clutter a lot of stuff. Like, that's dumping ground. Is my dining room table where we eat, is like I just throw everything on the table.
Just clearing the table for meals. I'm like, okay, plate fits there. It's so bad.
Same with
Man, I want to come to your house and create a system for that.
I was gonna ask you too, with like coming to people's houses and creating systems. Do they keep it in place, or do they do a good job with doing it, or do you have to go back and help them again in like a month, or like
Yeah.
you walk people through like your process of like why you're doing something and how to keep it manageable? Like, do you give them like ideas, I guess, tips? I mean, obviously, like you're organizing other people's stuff. I always think about that. So like, how do, I guess, your clients take that and like keep it the way that they want to keep it too?
Yeah, and I think a lot of it is figuring out the individual and their needs and goals. Everyone is going to react to stuff a little differently. So figuring out their own awareness first, then their goals for certain spaces or like their whole home and maybe touching on those like high traffic areas first. So let's say they're just like, my whole house is a mess. Figure out, okay, well, where do you find yourself going the most? The kitchen, the entryway, a bathroom, a bedroom, especially as sleep specialists. How are we getting rest if our room is cluttered with clothes that we don't wear anymore, that don't fit us? The mental to-do list of entryway stuff, paper clutter, all of that. So trying to figure out individual what their main stressor is, and then figuring out what their organizational style is. Some people like it visually open and accessible, and some people like it hidden. Some people like to macro organize, to do a lot of categories or a bigger zone. Some people like to micro organize. So also figuring out like, okay, what's your household? Who's in your household? What's the flow of your day? So it really is a lot figuring out a family and their structure. It's, some of it is space by space, and just going in and let's do this pantry. Okay, here's your inspo. Let's go. I got 2 hours, and making it really beautiful. But I think overall, what I'm trying to do is really create a system within a space that will work for you, not against you. And that is figuring out that person in the season and just letting them know that this might not look like it did as I left in 3 months, but it shouldn't take you a whole overhaul to get it back to that. So, it's not perfect. It's ever shifting and reassessing and just going through it.
Awesome. I need to go organize my whole house now.
Yeah, let's go.
I know, I'm so inspired. There's one thing that I do have that I don't get emotionally attached to artwork, which is interesting because other things like that, but I do have bins for each child, and it's like they have files with their ages, and I go through those frequently. That's like literally the only thing that I've have a system that I have in place for that.
Yeah. And that, like, you're already doing the container method, which is like you're setting the boundary. So that's like your threshold of how much art you want to, manage from them. And for moms who are having a hard time with the art, take a photo of it, throw it out.
Yeah.
I mentioned the time will tell bin and having that in like a very local spot in your home, but also a donate bin. So, and that'll help too as you're going through. We don't need big overhauls. It could be, as you're cleaning out or as you're like cooking, right? And you go through your drawer and you're like, oh my gosh, my utensil drawer is very overwhelming right now. Okay, I can pull out this. This is a quick one. I definitely think I can donate this, and you throw it in your donate bin that's close. Also, this spatula, but I don't know if my husband uses this too. Put it in the time will tell. That way, if you get stuck on an item, you don't have to like linger in that moment. You let time will tell. And like motherhood, we're getting caught in this decision fatigue. So creating like systems of decluttering as we go through life that have less decision fatigue aspects to it, that helps.
That's very helpful because I feel like that's what I struggle with a lot, is like making the actual decision. Like, and then I'm regretting that I donated something. You know what I mean?
I found this too. I was very much more minimalist before motherhood, but once I became a mom, I became like a hunter gatherer and like the what ifs and feeling that shame and guilt around letting something go and then needing it. But I think that's when we like let that go, especially if it's under $25. Because if you had to replace it and it's, what's your threshold of amount that if I had to replace this and it's, $5, easy, easy. Let it go. Okay. You like decluttering, you might make mistakes and that's okay. It's life.
Yeah. That's true. Did you guys see that funny reel online when it was like the mom was donating the stuffed turtles and then it like showed a clip of The Office? You guys watch The Office? And
I did, yeah.
Michael was like screaming, "Where are the turtles?" It was like relating to like my kid after they didn't play with their turtles like a year and then they were looking for this.
Yes. Okay, the time will tell bin. It's in the time will tell bin. Grab it.
I was laughing so hard. I'm like, that is literally like every kid though, right? Because like you are like, oh my gosh, I'm gonna donate this toy because they haven't touched it in a year. But then like the next day, like, oh, where's that one blue stuffed animal I was looking for? Something like so specific, and you're like, I don't need it.
Yes. And then as a mom, you're like, wow, I ruined their whole childhood.
Totally. It's so hard. It's so hard. But these are all really, really great tips. I'm sure a lot of people are going to take this and be able to actually implement it like in their day to day. And I know you have a really great page now that you're posting a lot of stuff on Instagram and like your own systems, which I think is really great to see how you do it because people can either copy or try to if it works for them, it can, or whatever. Every system's different. So where can people find you and ask you questions if they have questions?
Yeah, my Instagram for my business and kind of sharing this inspiration and systems is at the Tidy Buffalo.
Awesome.
So yeah, that's where I'm sharing my real life organizing tips and some clients behind the scenes projects.
Awesome. Well, obviously you're in person with like organizing people's homes. So if they're not in Buffalo, they can still like get really great tips from you online because you're like
Yes.
walking through the video and like showing how you're actually doing it, which is really helpful and gives me to go organize.
And then yeah, and if you're not in Buffalo too, you can, reach out if you need a little help in a certain area. And then I'm also sharing like little reminders to slow down and simplify. And yeah, I've been putting little highlights and trying to go from like each space.
Yeah, it's great.
I feel very inspired. I'm going to go clean my house.
Yes.
I think I need to start listening to audiobooks too. That needs to be a thing so I can do that while working.
Yes.
Yeah, instead of my Kindle, because that's not helping the situation at all. Because I get overwhelmed by the mess and I'm like, I'm just going to go take my Kindle and have some dopamine alone.
Yeah. There you go.
I was just going to say for me, like just with trying to do this in my life too, like decluttering and organizing, I'm just taking it very small steps at a time. Like yesterday, I just organized Nora's arts and crafts bins and that was it. And like today, I was going to do the front closet and that's it. Like I'm taking one little area at a time instead of being like, I need to do my whole entire living room today. Like I know I want to accomplish that. Because for me, if I have a to-do list and I don't check it off at the end of the week, I feel like I failed, which is obviously like silly because life comes up, things come up. So like, I'm not going to always check off everything. So that's why I'm giving myself very, very small, like you said, small wins.
Yeah.
Even if I go organize my utensil drawer today, I'll be happy. That's all I need to get done.
Yes. And like talking about the decluttering as a muscle, like each small win, you're building that decision making confidence for the next time you have to make a decision around an item.
Yeah. That's a good idea. Well, now this is a great episode before the holidays come, so everyone can go start decluttering before they get.
Yes, exactly. And I will have a post coming up around, decluttering kids' toys before the big overhaul of more kids' toys.
Love it. Well, thank you so, so much.
Yes. Thank you, Alicia. Thank you, Lenny. It's been awesome to be on your podcast.
Thanks for joining us. Don't forget to connect with us beyond the podcast. You can find me on all social media platforms at moonbay.sleep. And for more sleepy goodness, you can head over to Instagram and follow Eleni at Rooted in Sleep. Until next week, keep embracing the chaos.